Right, we have decided that we are not going to do the integration testing today. We'll study the scheduling, and after we have done the scheduling, then we will do the integration exam and then scheduling exam, both together, one after the other. So starting with the scheduling, in schedule we have got 6 processes here. 5 of them, the first 5, they are all in planning, and the last one is in monitoring and control. That means scheduling, as you understand, time management is one of the project objectives, and it has a baseline. So schedule baseline is going to be there, and that has to be very carefully developed and designed. Therefore, first 5 processes are actually contributing towards the development of the developed schedule. And control schedule is just like we have studied the scope schedule and other control schedule. So just like control scope, control schedule, control cost, all the processes are going to be very similar, except for they all are controlling their own knowledge area. Otherwise, the tools are very similar, the inputs are very similar, the outputs are very similar. There is a lot of similarity in all the controls. But anyways, so starting off with the project schedule management, what does it mean? Project schedule management includes the processes required to manage the timely completion of the project. So the objective here is we want to do it within the time allocated. We want to complete it. That is a great success normally if you can do your project in time, because this is one thing which usually gets late. We plan a lot, and even if we plan things very deliberately, still we have a tendency to go late, and I will talk about it how and why do we get late. So these are the processes I have. First of all is the plan schedule management, which is the process of establishing the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning, development, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. Meaning what? That all the policies and procedures regarding and the guidelines regarding all the subsequent processes 6.2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is all encapsulated and designed within the plan schedule management. And plan schedule management is under some project governance or project management system given by the organization. This is being done in accordance with that. So any management plan is under the overall governance mechanism of the organization. Therefore, there is a project governance sitting on top, which has assigned us to do this job, and guidelines from them, very broad guidelines have been provided. In alignment with that, we are developing our respective management plans, and schedule management plan is out of the project management practices which are allowed for the organization. The project management system defines those policies, procedures, and tools and techniques and all that. We are picking the suitable ones for our project in this. So every management plan is basically created out of that. And this defines, as I said, how to define the activities, how to sequence the activities, how to estimate the activity durations, and then develop the schedule into a baseline, and ultimately later on, how and where to control the schedule. Define activity is the process of identifying and documenting the specific actions to be performed to produce the project deliverable. So you remember the project scope. We talked about the product scope and the project scope. Product scope was what is to be included in the product, and project scope is how to create that product. So how to create that product is broken down to work package level in create WBS process we did earlier, and now we are further breaking it down to the activity level, and here we are defining those activities. We are breaking down the work package, which was the lowest part of the WBS work breakdown structure. The lowest part was work package, and now we are breaking down that work package into activities. So it is the process of identifying and documenting those specific actions which have to be taken to perform to produce the project deliverables. Now, the next process is the sequence activities. This is the process responsible for identifying and documenting the interrelationships or the relationships amongst the various activities, how the activities are to be linked together. What are the dependencies? What is dependent on whom? Which activity must be done first and which can be done after it is completed, and so on and so forth. This is all going to be covered in sequencing. Then we have estimate activity durations. This is the process of estimating the number of work periods needed to complete the individual activities within the estimated resources. That means that estimated resources must have been coming from somewhere. So that is the part of the resource management knowledge area where the resources are being estimated. And if I know the resources, I can easily estimate how much time will I need to have to complete this job. So activity and resources, they go hand in hand. Time may impact the resources, or resource estimate can impact the schedule estimate. So activity durations have to be estimated here, and naturally, sometimes the third estimate. There are three types of estimate: duration estimate, cost estimate, and the resource estimate. All three estimates work together and affect each other. Anyways, once I have the activity durations, I have the network diagram, I have the activities defined. Now is the time that I can put all of this data together in shape of a schedule. So here we develop the schedule, which is the process of analyzing the activity sequences, the durations, the resource requirements, schedule constraints, as if to create a schedule model. I will define the schedule model, but generally, in general terms, it is the schedule, right? The Gantt chart, which you are very popularly, which is known as. And what is this for? As if we can execute the project accordingly and later on monitor and control according to this schedule, which has been established. So when it is a time to control the schedule, the monitoring of the status of the project is done to update the project schedule and manage changes to schedule baseline. So this is briefly all the 6 processes defined. In this diagram, you can see this is a summary of all the 6 processes in detail, showing the inputs, the tools and techniques and outputs for each one of them, which we will be discussing subsequently. Therefore, I need not explain it here on this diagram, but this all is going to be discussed ultimately. So let us move on to the key concepts of the schedule management. Project scheduling provides a detailed plan that represents how and when the project will deliver the product, service, and result defined in the project scope. How and when. Previously, how and when is fulfilling the project scope, and what is to be produced was fulfilling the product scope. If what was supposed to be there in the product, in the deliverable, it if it is created, then it becomes the product scope is fulfilled. But how to fulfill that? In between, we have to do some work to create that deliverable, and this is how and when of that. How we'll do it and when we'll do it. So what all actions will be taking, when that action will start, and what will be the next action, and then next action, and what howsoever, we will ultimately, all the effort is directing towards deliver the product, service, and result as per the project scope, and serves as a tool, because this now is a complete plan displayed in form of a Gantt chart. So this can be communicated to all concerned stakeholders. We can also manage stakeholder expectations, because we can communicate it to them, and they would be aware what is to happen when, and therefore they will not pin any unnecessary hopes. They would know exactly when something is going to happen. And moreover, if at all they are interested to get something changed, they will get involved in the process of the development of the schedule. So the needs and expectations must be recorded beforehand as if the schedule depicts the needs and expectations. And this also forms a basis for further performance reporting and measurement and analysis of how much has been done as compared to how much uh, was to be done. Project management team selects a scheduling method such as critical path method or agile approach or whatever method you want to use. So we have to come up with a method we want to deal with this work. So whatever is our development methodology, whatever mechanism we want to use to do this project, that method has to be decided. Scheduling method has to be decided beforehand. That methodology or method must be defined, and based on that methodology and method, we will then select the tools which will be in alignment with that method, which will be able to fulfill that method. So we will be using those specific tools which are in accordance with that scheduling method, and we will use those tools to fill in the project specific data into the schedule. And once we put that data through those tools into that methodology, that will, for the first time, take a shape of a schedule model. So what is this project specific data? This is all the activities, their planned dates, their durations, their resources, their dependencies, all the data about the schedule, which actually has to be encapsulated into the schedule model. So this all data is by the use of the scheduling tool we have selected for in accordance with that scheduling method or methodology, which was earlier picked for this project, we create a project schedule model for the project. I will repeat that. Once we put all this data together through some tool in accordance with that methodology, the shape it takes is called project schedule model, right? So this is just like a balloon which is to be filled by a specific device, and the air is the project specific data. That device is the tool, and how the device is to be fitted and all that, that is the methodology which we have selected. And now this gives birth to a filled balloon. That filled balloon is your project schedule model, right? Okay, is there anyone else who is facing the problem, who is not able to listen to me? Please raise hands. Does that mean this is the problem only with Babar Shahzad? Babar Shahzad, you are connected on two different names, and probably this is the problem at your end because everybody else is somehow able to listen to me. I do not have any complaints from them from anywhere. So we can wait for you to stabilize if you like. Uh, Tell me when you can listen to me. Which device are you using, Babar? If you can't speak, please write in the chat window. Mm-hmm. Ji Babar.
Now it's okay, sir.
Now it's
Voice is
okay.
okay.
You are connected through what devices? There are two devices you are connected. One is showing a
Both are
mic, one is not showing a mic.
actually it was a problem, so I jumped to the another one. So maybe have a
Okay.
problem in the device. Now it's okay, sir.
Okay. The second device is switched off.
Yeah, now switched off.
Okay. Fine. Fine. So now you can listen. So we can continue. That is very nice. Right. So I was talking about the project specific data. This is the project specific data. The activities, the milestones, the activity attributes, the sequences, the network diagram, the resources, resource estimates, and cost estimates, and duration estimates, their dependencies and constraints, and everything all put together. This all data is raw data, but only when it is intelligently joined together through certain tools, scheduling tools we call them, and those tools were selected in accordance with the scheduling methodology we had selected. So with the use of those tools, once I fill this data into the balloon, that balloon takes the shape, and that shape is called the schedule model. Now you see, this data may change later. So whenever this data changes due to any reason, the shape of the balloon will also change. And every time it takes a new shape, it would be an other instance of the schedule model. So first schedule model will no more remain the same, and with slight change in data, it can become a different schedule. So a second schedule model instance, and then third and fourth, and this keeps happening while we are planning. We keep planning, and this data keeps changing, and ultimately the schedule model keeps changing. These are called schedule model instances. So there could be hundreds and thousands of schedule model instances, and we should not be ignoring them, because each model instance which we create, uh, it has its own importance according to whatever the data it was made of. Therefore, there is a requirement to keep a tab on all the various versions of this model. Various instances of this model must be recorded somewhere. It should be properly configured, version controlled, and all. And therefore, this this makes scheduling a unique process in which we not only take account of the baseline, we only not only do the configuration management and version control of the baseline, but even before the baseline has been created. So far, I have not talked about the schedule is final, but even before it was final, it had gone through hundreds and thousands of various shapes, and all those shapes are important for us to remember, and therefore, I am keeping a version control on them and configuring them all together, putting them in some database, and I have the data stored separately and the scheduled model instances, various model instances stored separately. Uh, One is the raw data, when it was not converted to the form of a scheduled model, that is the raw data, and then there is the scheduled model, which is the finished data, but this is one shape of the finished data. So we can have many shapes of the finished data, and ultimately it will keep evolving during planning, and finally, when we are satisfied that all whatever could have impacted the schedule has impacted, then we can finalize the schedule, and we can get it approved by the boss, the sponsor. When the project team is satisfied that schedule is final, they will get approval from the sponsor, and ultimately once the schedule has been approved, signed, it is called schedule baseline. Now the team, our project manager, has no authority to make any changes to the schedule model. The final shape of the schedule model is called the schedule baseline, and this is what is going to be executed, right? So we cannot amend it until and unless there is a proper change request processed through the integrated change control, and ultimately that change is allowed. This change request is approved, and requisite changes are made to the project management plan and project documents. But again, once we open this Pandora box, then again the project related data would start fluctuating, because with these changes, many possibilities open up, that what if this happens and then that happens. So this data again becomes fluid, and it starts changing, and again many instances start becoming created. After the baseline has been unfrozen and the new data has been introduced, due to this new data, there are waves made in the data, and ultimately your schedule becomes unstable again. And again, we have to start recording all its various versions, all its instances, and ultimately we will again re-baseline it when we are again confident that this has now stabilized. So we have to wait for it to stabilize, and once it is stabilized, it is baselined again, and this process can happen time and again until the project is concluded. So the result ultimately is the project schedule in general. So figure 6.2 provides a scheduling overview that shows that the scheduling method, scheduling tool, and the output from the project schedule management processes interact to create a schedule model. So how does it happen? I will just show you. I hope you can have a look at this diagram. You can see some balloons on up there, and then there is a project schedule written there, and then ultimately there is a print symbol underneath on which various different formats are made. So let us explain that. Okay, let me first explain the upper part of it. Right. So before we start the project planning on the schedule, we first select a scheduling method in our schedule management plan. This circle is representing the schedule method. So whatever method you have selected, agile, or you have selected critical path method or critical chain method, there are several methods. Whichever method you have chosen for your project, naturally according to the needs and requirements of your project, that it depends upon that method what scheduling tools will be selected. It is not really possible to use one tool for all methods. Like if you are using agile, the tools are going to be very different. If you are using waterfall, even in waterfall there are many methods. So specific to this project, what tools are appropriate to be used if this scheduling method has to be implemented. So this also is decided in the schedule management plan, what tools would be suitable to be used in this scheduling method for this specific project. This is a project related decision. And naturally, we are taking these decisions based on the guideline provided to us from outside of the project, from the PMO or whomsoever is having the schedule management guidelines established or procedures or policies of the organization, which could be encapsulated in the project management system held by PMO. Now, this much is prepared already. That means uh, you know the general shape of the balloon without its curves and all is formulated. We know what method and what tools are to be used, but we exactly do not know exactly what form it will take. But generally we know this is how the model is going to be created. Now let us generate the data, the project specific data has to be generated as if it can be put into the schedule model through the scheduling tools appropriate for the scheduling method. So what is the data? This is the WBS, activities, resources, durations, dependencies, constraints, calendars, milestones, deeds, lags, and so on and so forth. All of this data, which is raw data and which is haphazard, it all has to be organized and specifically designed to be put in a specific order, and that specific order, when it is put through the scheduling tool into the schedule model first time, the project schedule takes birth. But remember, this project schedule is not the final project schedule. This is just one shape of the project schedule. This project schedule can go through a number of instances as and when, even during planning, any data changes. And you can't really imagine what is the impact of one small data item changing. This could change the whole wide project schedule at various places. This is not a simple matter of making a change at one point. This could shake up the whole project schedule. The whole of your balloon can take a new shape. So we will keep trying on various options and keep creating more and more versions, more and more possibilities of schedule model, and as much as we can think of, this will also take care of scheduling risk and other possibilities. And we will have maybe hundreds or maybe thousands of various schedule instances which all have to be properly tagged, recorded, and archived. And for that we need to have the configuration management system invoked. Proper versioning control should be done, and this process goes on. And schedule, the importance of schedule is such that all other knowledge areas, if anything is planned for any other knowledge area, in one way or the other, it is ultimately going to impact the schedule. So we will create a schedule, but this schedule is very likely to be affected by the cost management, by the human, the resource management, or any other thing, any other knowledge area may impact the schedule. So these are actually changing the project specific data. So we will keep waiting for all other knowledge areas to be planned, have their effect on the schedule. We will keep revising the schedule instances. Then we will experiment with the instances for what all else can happen, like the risks which are uncertainties. We will think of all the possible uncertainties, and when we have exhausted with all our eyes, we have elaborated the scope, the schedule in every possible form, then we will stop creating these instances, and the final instance or the final shape which has so evolved, we will put it for approval by the project sponsor or the project board. They, when they prove it, then ball is no more in the court of the project manager. This is now the responsibility or authority of the project board or the project sponsor, who can make any changes to the schedule. This is the time when project manager or his team members or stakeholders, none has any authority over making changes to the schedule. Any change to the schedule will now have to be properly requested through a change request procedure. Change request form has to be filled. It has to be sent to integrated change control that will decide the fate of that change. And ultimately, once it is approved, then the baseline is unbaselined, unfrozen, and those changes which have been allowed will be made to that base, to that unbaselined form. But once it is put in, it is just like the schedule is just like jelly. When you create it, it is wobbly. So it keeps wobbling, maybe due to different effects, like if somebody touches it, starts wobbling. If there is a lot of air around it, it will start wobbling. There are so many reasons for it to wobble, and ultimately it starts getting stabilizing. So baseline is only created when your jelly is stabilized, and only then you freeze it, you baseline it. Because there is a change request approved, it has to be unfrozen, because we cannot change the frozen state of the schedule. It has to be unfrozen. Requisite changes are to be made wherever they are to be made, and but again it becomes wobbly. It starts vibrating again. So again I have to see the impact of different things on it, and very slowly and steadily we will wait very patiently for it to stabilize, and as soon as it stabilizes, we again get it re-baseline. So this process will be repeated every time uh, a change request is approved. And between when a change request is approved, the whole process of configuration and version control of various instances will happen. And between two change requests, there could be many instances, many schedule model instances which are created. All of them are recorded. But the final shape is always called the baseline. Maybe we can do version controlling like that. No, the very first baseline may be called 1.0, version 1.0. Second baseline, rebaseline could be called 2.0. And before 1.0, all the various versions which are taking place of the schedule instances, we could call them 0.001, 0.002, and so on and so forth. And howsoever, maybe we reach the number 0.100. So at that point, if the schedule is baseline, we will call it, the baseline format will call 1.0. Then we will, when we unbaseline it again, unfreeze it again, then it will again start 1.001, 1.002, and so on and so forth, until we reach a point where it is baseline and we say now it is 2.0. So with the same version controlling scheme or configuration management mechanism, we can continue keeping a record of all the possible instances which could have ever occurred during the life of the project. So there could be hundreds and thousands. So now the schedule has been created and this schedule has been baseline. Now what we need to do is this, not only the schedule baseline, but even any instance of the schedule could be presented to stakeholders, different stakeholders, in a different form. Somebody would like to see the long list of activities. Somebody would like to see the Gantt chart. Somebody will like to see the network diagram. Somebody will only like to see the milestone. So it depends upon what, who is the stakeholder and what is his requirement. So these are the various forms of presentation of project schedule to various stakeholders. So even a single instance could be presented in 100 different ways to different stakeholders. So this is called project schedule presentations or project schedule instance presentations, because every instance could be presented in any way. And even the schedule baseline can also be presented in the same way. So these are the various shapes which it could take for better understanding. So far, so good. Are you all following me? Please raise hands as if I know. Wonderful. Very good. Very good. Okay. So it is assumed that scheduling is to be considered and assumed normally by people as one single big process. In smaller projects, all of these processes like defining activities, sequencing activities, estimating their durations, and developing the schedule model, all of it is considered to be one big process. It is so tightly linked that they are viewed as a single big process that can be performed by a single person over a relatively short period of time. Well, I don't disagree with it in some cases, but when we treat it as something very small and something very unimportant, probably we may be missing out on something. Planning should not be considered always to be a short span thing. Planning is to be deliberate, naturally according to the need of the project. The more complex a project is, more planning it needs. But a smaller project may also need some deliberation. We can't say this is a too small where we don't need any planning at all. That is not all. जी कौन बाबर जी बताइए जी बाबर
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। अच्छा सर, ये इसका स्केड्यूलिंग मेथड जो है क्रिटिकल पाथ या एजाइल, इसका कोई क्राइटेरिया है या एज पर अपॉन द नीड ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट हम उसे सेलेक्ट करेंगे?
नीड ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट पे है, इज व्हाट काइंड ऑफ अ वर्क यू आर डूइंग, द मेथोडोलॉजी विल बी सिलेक्टेड अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट। जी सुफियान।
राइट सर।
जी सुफियान, you want to say something? Sufyan, unmute please.
Hello.
जी जी
Sir,
जी, we can listen to you. जी बोलिए। अच्छा, मीनवेल फैसल आप बोलिए।
सर ये स्केड्यूल मॉडल जो है ये चेंज होता रहेगा, तो आपने उसको कहा कि इट विल बी नोन एज स्टांस सर, और ये स्टांस हम रिकॉर्ड करते रहेंगे।
जी जी।
तो जब बेसलाइन बन गई, स्केड्यूल बेसलाइन बन गई, उसके बाद भी जो चेंज रिक्वेस्ट समथिंग दैट विल आल्सो कॉल्ड इंस्टेंसेस।
जी
और उनको रिकॉर्ड में रखी हो, को रिकॉर्ड में रखने की क्या रीजन हो सकती है? चलिए बाद में तो रीजन बनती है, बेसलाइन होगी थी, देन वी आर रिकॉर्डिंग
ओके
इसको, लेकिन पहले वाली जब बेसलाइन ही बनी थी उससे पहले वाले को रिकॉर्ड रखने का क्या रीजन है सर?
सर ऐसा है कि एवरी इंस्टांस हैज अ पिक्यूलियर सर्कमस्टांस, कि अगर डाटा ये हो, फलानी चीज ऐसे हो, फलानी चीज ऐसे हो, तो फिर ऐसे काम करेंगे. बट नाउ द डाटा हैज चेंज. What if that particular instance which we considered in the very beginning occurs? Because कोई चीज फाइनल तो है कोई नहीं ना, हम प्लान तो कर रहे हैं, बट एनीथिंग कैन हैपन टू अस. सो ऑल ऑफ दीज वेरियस contingencies could occur. So I must be ready for everything. So if I have kept a record of all what I have considered, then probably I can quickly switch to that rather than replanning it all the way again. Got it?
राजेश सर बिल्कुल ठीक.
Acha, Sufyan, if you can speak, please ask your question. Or if you can't speak, there's a problem, you can write it down in the chat window. ये कोई नहीं सुफियान? चलें, आप क्वेश्चन याद रखिएगा, एंड whenever you can, you please share it with us and we will answer. Okay, so what I was saying that all of these processes we need to do in scheduling are generally considered to be one huge process, rather not huge but tightly linked process, and that is considered a small little thing, ho jayega. Anybody can do it. One single person can do it. Yes, of course, I don't argue with you that it can be done by a single person, but don't give it so less importance. This is the most important work in project, because this is the schedule according to which the work will be done. And if you are careless in planning, then probably you are going to suffer the consequences yourself. Number two, all of these processes which you have considered, you tied together, and you have considered them to be a one big process, you see, each process has its own peculiarities. Each process does a different job, and it has a different way of functioning. Different tools are used for that. So, whomsoever is made responsible, even if a single person is doing it, he must be master of using each and every of these processes along with its tools and everything. The problem is the person we make responsible for doing whole of this scheduling thing knows bullshit about scheduling. He may know one or two things about one odd process, but he may not know how the network diagram is made, how the durations are to be estimated. He may be good at one or two things, but he is handling everything, and he is then going to do a broad brushing kind of a plan, which is not viable at all. So first of all, I would say that you should have really good trained professionals in scheduling in your organization who should handle this job. Secondly, if possible, and you can have more than one people working on it, then why don't you do that? Let them, one person might be an expert in sequencing and duration estimates, another person might be good at defining the activities, then why not you divide the responsibilities? So don't give less importance to it. This is important. These processes are presented here as distinct elements. Every one of these processes is shown as a separate process, and it is a distinct process, and every process has its own job to do and a different tool or technique to be used. So please consider that every process is important in its own way, and nothing can be skipped actually. Some of these processes are presented more fully in the practice standard for scheduling. There is a separate practice standard for scheduling, which debates in more detail about these things. But naturally, we are not going to be covering that. We will be more focused about PMBA. Okay. जी शेर यार, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं?
जी सर ये मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था इससे स्केड्यूलिंग से रिलेटेड एक्चुअली सर. नॉर्मली कंपनीज में मैंने सर यही देखा हुआ है कि जो है ना स्केड्यूलिंग की रिसोर्स अलग नहीं होती, प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर ही होता है जो ये कर रहा होता है काम. और सेकेंडली इंटरेस्टिंगली सर मैंने ये भी देखा है कि जब प्रोजेक्ट स्केड्यूल जब दिया जाता है कस्टमर को तो बहुत ज़्यादा उधर गौर व फिक्र नहीं होती सर उसमें एक्टिविटी ड्यूरेशन पे और सीक्वेंसिंग दी एक्टिविटीज में।
जी जी बिल्कुल।
तो
आई
ऐसा क्यों है सर ये यानी
सर ये
जो
गलत है ना। देखिए ये तो बड़ा ही गलत काम है। देखिए होता क्या है, मैं आपको खुद पर्सनल एग्जांपल देता हूँ। हमने खुद देखा है लोगों को काम करते हुए। वी थिंक अ पर्सन टू बी अ गुड प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर who when he receives the project he directly goes to his room and after 1 hour he comes out with a printout of a schedule and then and only he understands how he did it. Nobody understands what it is, and people are greatly impressed by the efficiency of this project manager, and everybody signs it off without any even configuring, considering even if it is right or wrong. Nobody understands what it is, but everybody is very happy, and your boss also approves it, and there it goes. And then it is pasted on a big wall, and then never ever consulted again. Not even communicated to the people. The people who are actually doing the work on the project, who are actually the team members, even they have never seen that schedule ever in their lives. And our supervisor has been told, "Tum ye karo, tum wo karo." Everybody is doing, and something is happening, but nothing is happening according to the schedule. And this schedule has never been updated. This is the importance we give to our project schedule. So, practically speaking, there is no need of a project schedule in projects what we do because we don't use it. It is just for decoration purposes. It has no, practical functionality. So, a single person project manager, how can he create a schedule? I don't understand. How can he create a Gantt chart in 1 hour, all alone? This is something he has to consult with the stakeholders, he has to consult with his team members, the people who are going to be doing this job, they must be contributing to it. So this is a deliberate effort where all have to sit together and decide each and every activity. They have to debate it, they have to estimate it, they have to even debate the relationships, how it is to be done, and then it is all put together in shape of a schedule. How is it possible that you can have a schedule in 1 hour and approved in next 1 minute? Do you?
यस सर मैं टोटली एग्री करता हूँ ये वन ऑफ द बिग डिजास्टर है इवन कस्टमर और वेंडर दोनों के रेफरेंस है कि जब वेंडर एक प्रोजेक्ट स्केड्यूल बना रहा होता है वो कस्टमर को लूप में नहीं लेता
बिल्कुल
कि जब वो किसी कस्टमर को एंगेज करेगा किसी एक फेज में तो कस्टमर की अवेलेबिलिटी क्या है वो कितने ड्यूरेशन के लिए अवेलेबल होगा ये वो तो
बिल्कुल
स्केड्यूल मोस्ट ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट्स में प्रैक्टिकल नहीं होते सर
होते ही नहीं है। बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप। तो और ये तो बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है। इफ दिस प्रोजेक्ट वट एवर द स्केड्यूल यू हैव क्रिएटेड इज नॉट टू बी फॉलोड as in usually the case, it is just a decoration piece, then you are working on whims. Whatever comes to somebody's mind, it is it is being done, and there is nobody who is turning back to the schedule and seeing what is to be done
सर
according to the
एक
schedule.
इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है
Mm-hmm.
सॉरी फॉर द इंटरप्शन सर
No problem.
सर ये इधर इरेशनैलिटी को कैसे डील किया जा सकता है व्हाट आई मीन इज समटाइम्स सर ऐसा भी होता है कि हाई लेवल मैनेजमेंट से डायरेक्शंस आती हैं प्रोजेक्ट किक ऑफ होने से पहले
Mm-hmm.
कि जी ये आपने 6 मंथ्स में करना है
Mm-hmm. देखिए
जबकि
मुझे
हालांकि वो 6 मंथ्स यानी कि अगर रैशनली अगर उसको एस्टिमेट किया जाए तो वो नहीं होता मे बी इट इज 8 मंथ्स और 9 मंथ्स
Mm-hmm.
तो वो टफ टाइमलाइन इसी तरह आप वेंडर को देते हैं या सप्लायर को देते हैं
Mm.
वो उसी तरीके से स्क्वीज करके स्केड्यूल दे देता है
बिल्कुल सही है। सो
तो इस केस में सर कैसे मैनेजमेंट लेवल पे डील किया जा सकता है कैसे ये जो है इरेशनैलिटी को जो है
sir, there are two sides to this question. One side is the side of the project manager. He has been given a constraint. Now, even if you have been given a constraint, you should not restrict yourself in your planning with that constraint. Why? I must tell you. Because if you impose that constraint on your mind before planning, then you will squeeze your planning by nature. And you would never know what is the maximum girth of your project, what it should normally have taken. So you are trying to squeeze time from here and there and then fitting it into 6 months or something. So probably you don't know what is the actual timeline of this project. So before putting in any constraint, be free of mind and consider in normal situation how this work could be done, should be done. If there is no constraint, how this work could be done. What is the most viable timing in which we can do this project? And then, even without considering any constraints, come up with a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. Do not consider the constraint as yet. Just consider that what good can happen to you, what could be the maximum time given to you, maximum how much time can be given to you. Maybe you are constructing a house and your estimate is okay, I can complete it in 6 months, right? And what is the
Yes, sir.
maximum, lavish planning or everything? I'll say, okay, if I can be given 1 year, I'll be more than pleased. Okay, then consider how much can I squeeze this project in worst case scenario. So you decide that I cannot squeeze this project more than 4 months. Squeezing it more than 4 months is, it is dangerous for the project. This cannot be done. Impossible. Impossibility range. So therefore, you have now decided that the best time to do this project is 6 months. Minimum it can be done in 4 months, and maximum it can be done in 12 months. Now, so far you have not considered the constraint which has been given by your boss. Now bring in the constraint and see where does it fall. Your boss wants it to be done in 3 months. So straight away, this is out of the possibility range. Therefore, you have to get back to your boss and have a debate with him and try to convince him, okay, if this project can be squeezed, this is how and why I can squeeze it, and this much can I squeeze it. Beyond this would be difficult. So that means you are somehow trying to convince your boss to increase his constraint from 3 months to say more than 4 months, right? So if you don't know what you
Fair,
want,
sir.
how will you fight for it? If you are governed by the constraint, then you would never know how much this project should have taken, and therefore you would be saying yes sir, 3 months, okay sir, and thus you will be sacrificing quality, you will be sacrificing so many things. You must always know what and how much are you sacrificing. Do not plan poorly. Plan with intelligence, with information, and you should present your point of view in a workable way. And trust me, if you have facts and figures, your boss is going to definitely agree with you because you have logic. You are convincing him that this is impossible for anyone to do this work in 3 months. You got my joke?
Yes, sir.
So that is
Thank
important.
you.
Now look at it from the other angle. Your boss wants it to be done in 3 months. Why is that? He must be having some problems, some pressures, and from a strategic point of view, he knows and he thinks that it should not exceed 3 months. He wants it definitely to be done in 3 months. So when you take your argument to your boss and convince him that this job cannot be squeezed beyond 4 months, he then convinces you that due to these pressures and these strategies and all that, we have to complete in 3 months. Then you come to a negotiation point. Then he asks you, "How can you help me?" And you can ask him, "Sir, how can you help me?" So both of you are now trying to develop a consensus. So there are ways and means where you can squeeze the project beyond reason in a proper logical way, right? There are many ways which we do not normally cater for. If you want to become a little creative, you can do wonders with your project. Trust me, a project which could only be done in months, it was done in minutes by someone. Could you ever believe that? That is just due to creativity. Maybe there is a need for using creativity. There is a need for using some new skill or some new mechanism or procedure or methodology by which you can do the same thing in even better way. Maybe I'll give you a little example. Like you see, this house is to be created, to be developed in 3 months, and there is no possible way, and he asked you to elaborate more on it. And then you start, when pressure is applied to you, you will be able to create beyond reason. You understand my point? When you think beyond reason, you will say, okay, let's be creative and let's think out of the box. Why are we restricting this house to be built of concrete? Why don't I make a house made of wood? So you take this proposal to your boss. Sir, if I make a house made of wood, then it will only take 2 months. Now, your boss is going to consider this idea and sees the basic need or requirement of the stakeholder. Does it describe that it has to be a concrete house? If it does not, then he says, okay, very good idea. Why can't we have a kind of a hybrid? Maybe the outer walls and all could be of concrete or cement, but internal walls and separation, everything could be made of wood. Can you do it in like 3 months? You say, okay, that can be done. And you go, your boss goes back to the customer, and he may even have the changes made in the contract accordingly, as if there is acceptability. Do you get my point?
Yes, sir, I do, sir.
So there is a whole wide world which is open to you. You can do wonders, and there are a lot many things can be done. But it's not only one-sided view. The project manager's view, or project sponsor's view, or stakeholders' view. There is not one-sided view. We can have hundreds of other possibilities open to us. Okay. Then these processes are presented here as distinct elements, as I said, and they have to have their own tools and techniques. So even if the one person is responsible for doing all these processes, whenever he is doing a specific process, defining activities, he should know, understand, and he should be using those tools and techniques required for defining activities. When he is doing sequencing, he must know how to do sequencing, and he must be using those tools and techniques in the most appropriate way. So for each and every process, discrete process, he should be able to use efficiently and effectively the relevant tools and techniques, and only then your work will be of good quality. When possible, the detailed project schedule should remain flexible throughout the project to adjust for knowledge gained, increase understanding of the risk, and value added activities. And this is the fluid status that your project remains most of the time when it is not in a baseline format, right? So you are including everything, new knowledge coming, we are injecting it into your project, increased understanding of the risk. You keep adding things, value added activities, and all that. So your project should have that kind of flexibility. And as the need for flexibility increases, probably the methodology changes. You cannot keep doing that in a waterfall model or a traditional project management model. You may have to go for agile or iterative or such kind methods which are more flexible in nature. Distinguishing the project schedule presentation from schedule data. You see, project schedule presentation was the last state of the schedule which is shown to someone, and schedule data was the raw format, and calculations that produce the project schedule is practiced by how? By using the schedule tools populated with that data, project data, into the schedule model. A schedule model is a representation of the plan for executing the project activities, including durations, dependencies, other planning information, all the raw data used to produce the project schedule along with other scheduling artifacts. For specific information, again, you can always consult practice standard for scheduling. On some projects, especially those of smaller scope, defining activities, sequencing activities, estimating activities, and all that, probably I have covered this already. So schedule management plan, the time management processes and their associated tools and techniques are documented in the schedule management plan. As we have already talked about, the methodology and all the tools and techniques and all the rationale guidance for the schedule management of all the various processes is actually defined in the schedule management plan. So, and schedule management plan, what it is a part of the project management plan. It is ultimately going to be integrated into the project management plan. Schedule management plan identifies a scheduling method, as I said, a scheduling tool, set of formats, some established criteria for developing and controlling the project schedule. So all these guidelines are to be provided there. The selected scheduling method defines the framework and algorithm used in the scheduling tools to create the schedule model. How the schedule model will come into being. So the whole procedure is defined there, but actually not the schedule model is created here. It is to be created later. The data is not available at this stage. Then we have got various methods, as I said, critical path method, critical chain method, agile method, whatever, so many others, whatever the method is in vogue. Schedule development uses the outputs from the processes, whatever the defined activities, sequence activities, duration estimates, etc. So all this is combined, the result of all of them is combined into the schedule model. The finalized and approved shape of the schedule model is called the baseline, schedule baseline, that will be used in the control schedule process. You will be checking the schedule in accordance with the schedule baseline. As the project activities are being performed, the majority of effort in project time management or schedule management knowledge area will occur in the control schedule process to ensure completion of the project work in a timely manner. So, putting the things together, bringing the project back on track, all the effort to be enforced in control schedule, where we have to ensure that things remain on the track. So, a scheduling overview that shows how the scheduling method, tools, and outputs of the project time management interacts. This I had already shown you that diagram. Then is the trends and emerging practices in project schedule management. With high levels of uncertainty and unpredictability in a fast-paced, highly competitive global marketplace, where long-term scope is difficult to define, it is becoming even more important to have a contextual framework for effective adoption and tailoring of development practices to respond to the changing needs of the environment. So today is a very fast-paced world. We have to we are more uncertain and we have to be faster. So there are two difficulties we have to face, and how can we face them together? How can we be fast as well as continuously changing? Adaptive planning defines a plan, but acknowledges that once work starts, the priorities may change and the plan needs to reflect this new knowledge. So somehow we have to make an arrangement in which we can keep changing the plan while we do it, which is otherwise very difficult to even consume. We can't understand how is it possible that I am working on a plan and the plan is also changing. So they have come up with different techniques like iterative scheduling with a backlog, on-demand scheduling, and I'll just explain them one by one. Iterative scheduling with a backlog is that whole of the work of the project is placed in a backlog. All the work is placed in a backlog in a order of prioritization by value, which work is to be done first and which work. Okay, I hope you can hear me now. There was a break. जी शहरयार
सर ये आपकी जी आवाज नहीं आ रही थी, तो पिछली स्लाइड एक दफा रिपीट कर दें सर.
Okay, I'll go back to the last slide. Okay, I just started off with the trends and emerging practices. I said in today's world, the fast changing world, where there is a need for a lot of change and a lot of flexibility, as well as we need to be fast also. and do the things in a very liquid state. So we have two methods to do it. One is iterative scheduling with a backlog, and other is on-demand scheduling. So let me explain each one of them. Iterative scheduling with a backlog means this is a form of rolling wave planning. We already understand what a rolling wave planning is. We do not have certain details available about certain areas of the project, and therefore they would be explained later whenever they are made available. Only then we will plan them. So in the adaptive life cycle, we accommodate the rolling wave planning in a more better manner, such as agile approaches for product development. The requirements are documented in user stories. We ask the customer what all are the features you want. So whatever the features they give us, we record them as user stories. This should be done. This should be done. This should be. These are different user stories. Then we prioritize these user stories in order of importance and in order of value generation. The stories which are most important to us and which could create maximum value are put on top of the list, and that's how they are prioritized. And this is called a product backlog. This product backlog, which is refined and prioritized just prior to the actual work, the when we start working, we don't pick the work to do. We just don't say that this much work is to be done. We say this much time is available to you. How much work can you do? So a small little team in a time box period of work picks and chooses by themselves from the top of the product backlog whichever work they want, and only from the top in priority. They can't pick first, third, and fifth task. They will have to pick 1, 2, 3 or something like that. So top 3 tasks they pick up and they start doing it, and howsoever they can complete. So they can complete all 3 of them, or they complete 2. That is not a problem. But at least these 3 tasks have been frozen and nobody can change them because they are under work. Remaining items lying in the product backlog are open to change. So this time box is very small, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. So we only picked up the work which we could do in 4 weeks, and remaining 11 months job maybe is open to change. Customer can anytime change anything. So this way we can iteratively deliver also. After every 2 weeks we are delivering something, but we are also open to change for the remaining work. So we are iteratively in an iterative schedule with a backlog, we are consistently delivering value. This approach is often used to deliver incremental value to the customer, or when multiple teams can concurrently develop a large number of features that have few interconnected dependencies. How do we do that? Maybe this is one team working on one time box, and simultaneously there are 10 different time boxes being worked on. So if there are no connectivities in these tasks and they could separately be developed, then we can have a lot many things going on simultaneously, which will later be connected. This scheduling method is appropriate for many projects, as indicated by the widespread and growing use of adaptive lifecycle for product development. The benefit of this approach is that it welcomes change throughout the development lifecycle. So customer is happy not only from that point that he can change anything, but also by the speed of delivery. The value delivered to him is consistent and is satisfying. On-demand scheduling means this approach typically uses a Kanban system. This Kanban system is a lean, agile type of a methodology. Lean means reduce the wastage. Do not do anything which is not important. Only do that thing which is important and which saves money and effort. So Kanban system is based on a theory of constraint and pull-based scheduling concept that lean manufacturing to limit a team's work in progress in order to balance demand against the team delivery throughput. Now, we have a tendency that if we have got some job, we will carry too much work and we will start doing everything at the same time, and thus we are unable to complete anything. So it says that do not pick a lot of work together, just pick as much as you can consume. So a limited number of work is in progress, and you you make a bar that you will not pick more than 3 tasks at a time. So whole of the team is working on 3 tasks. As soon as any one of these tasks is completed, another task is picked up, and this way we can balance demand against the team delivery throughput, as well as we are consistently delivering value and being efficient also. We are reducing waste in this way. So this is called on-demand scheduling. On-demand scheduling does not rely on a schedule that was developed previously for the development of the product or product increments, but rather pulls work from a backlog. There is a backlog, and we have picked three tasks. Whichever is done, we pull another task in the work in progress, and this way we always keep doing 3 tasks at a time. But we are not working according to any schedule. We are working according to the availability, and therefore we are on a pull based work system. So pulls work from a backlog or intermediate queue of work to be done immediately as the resources become available. So there is no wastage of resources, no waiting of resources. All the resources are most efficiently used in this manner, and we save money. On-demand scheduling is often used for projects that evolve the product incrementally in operational or sustainable environments, where tasks may be made relatively similar in size and scope, or can be bundled by size and scope. Then we have the tailoring considerations. Because each project is unique, the project manager may need to tailor the way project schedule management processes are applied. Considerations for tailoring include like the life cycle approach, what life cycle approach you are using, what are the resources available, what are the project dimensions, and technology support. For more specific information, we may always refer to the practice standard for scheduling. The life cycle approach means what is the most appropriate life cycle approach that allows for a more detailed schedule. Resources availability, what are the factors influencing duration, such as the correlation between available resources and their productivity. Dimension means how will the presence of project complexity, technological uncertainty, product novelty, pace, and progress tracking, such as earned value, percentage complete, or whatever systems indications you are using, impact the desired level of control. So what kind of control you are trying to exercise. Then there's a technology support. Is technology used to develop, record, transmit, receive, and store project schedule model information, and is it readily accessible? Coming over to the considerations for agile and adaptive environments specifically, adaptive approaches use short cycles. Like, we already said that we have iterations, small iterations. In these small iterations, we undertake work only in one iteration at a time, and then we review the result of each iteration and then adapt as necessary. Ultimately, we learn lessons from every cycle, every iteration, and we use that lesson learned into the next iteration. These cycles provide rapid feedback, because these cycles are very small, on the approaches and suitability of deliverables, and generally manifest as the iterative schedule and on-demand pull-based scheduling. As discussed in the section on key trends and emerging practices in project schedule management, we just studied about these two things, and that's exactly what we are going to be using in agile and adaptive considerations. In large organizations, there may be a mixture of small projects and large initiatives requiring long-term roadmaps to manage the development of these programs using scaling factors. So, scaling factor means the team size, geographical distribution, regulatory compliances, organizational complexity, and the technical complexity to address the full delivery lifecycle for larger enterprise-wide systems. A range of techniques utilizing a predictive approach, adaptive approach, or a hybrid may need to be adopted. So we can have either a predictive approach or an adaptive approach or a mixture of them both. The organization may need to combine practices from several core methods. They may adopt a method that has already done so and adopt a few principles and practices of more traditional techniques. So you can mix and match. You can use a hybrid kind of environment. You can design your own system, your own method of doing the work, but that should be sensibly done. The role of the project manager does not change based on managing projects using a predictive development lifecycle or managing projects in adaptive environment. So basically, the role of project manager remains the same. However, to be successful in using adaptive approaches, project manager will need to be familiar with the tools and techniques to understand how to apply them effectively. So this is the basic terms and concepts about the scheduling, and from now on we will be moving on to the processes of schedule management, which are 6 processes, and the first one is plan schedule management. So if you have any question, you can ask now. Yes, please. I have unmuted your mics. You can directly ask questions if you want. No questions? Okay, fine.
सर ये जो ऑन डिमांड स्केड्यूलिंग में ये जो वर्क जो है वो सीक्वेंस में पिक होता है या रैंडमली भी हो सकता है?
ऑन डिमांड स्केड्यूलिंग के अंदर होता तो सीक्वेंस में ही है, मगर जो काम मुकम्मल हो जाता है उसको उसकी जगह पे जो नेक्स्ट प्रायोरिटी में या जो नेक्स्ट ऑर्डर में चीज पड़ी होती है उसको पिक कर लिया जाता है। मगर अगर मैंने फ्रीज किया हुआ है कि एक वक्त में 3 ही काम कर सकते हैं, तो वो तीसरा एक काम जो खाली जगह होगी उसको आगे फिल करेगा प्रायोरिटी में।
तो इसका मतलब है सर कि शुरू में प्रोजेक्ट में हमें नहीं पता होता कि प्रोजेक्ट एंड कब होगा, क्योंकि ये तो स्केड्यूल इस तरह चलता जाएगा जो है ये।
देखें, मगर इसके अंदर चेंज ज्यादा नहीं है। वो जो था एजाइल वाला और था, ये कैनबैन वाला जरा डिफरेंट है। कैनबैन में होगा क्या कि आपके जब रिसोर्सेज वेस्ट नहीं हो रहे होंगे तो आपकी स्पीड बढ़ रही होगी। आप मेरी बात समझ रहे हैं कि जो ही एक काम खत्म होता है अगला काम शुरू हो जाता है। तो वी डोंट हैव टू वेट कि जी नहीं ये अभी फलाना खत्म होगा और फिर फलानी चीज होगी तो फिर हमारी बारी आएगी। तो एज सुन एज वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस में से जगह खाली हुई, फटाफट उसमें घुस गई। तो मोस्ट एफिशिएंट वे ऑफ वर्किंग है, और इसमें तो आपकी स्पीड कहीं ज्यादा तेज हो जाएगी। क्या कहते हैं?
यस सर, लेकिन सर थोड़ी सी बस मुझे ये कंफ्यूजन है कि इस केस में यानी कि 100% स्केड्यूल की क्लैरिटी नहीं होगी आपको जब प्रोजेक्ट स्केड्यूल अप्रूव्ड होता है, आप देते हैं जो है शेयर करते हैं।
बोथ वे, दोनों तरीके जो है, एजाइल वाला और ये कैनबैन वाला, इन दोनों के अंदर यही होता है कि वी डू नॉट हैव एन एग्जैक्ट स्केड्यूल क्रिएटेड बिफोर, वी हैव आउटलाइन स्केड्यूल। ये मोटा मोटा स्केड्यूल बना के हम बैठे होते हैं। और देखें ना, आप ये देखें कि व्हाट आर यू गेटिंग एंड व्हाट आर यू सैक्रिफाइसिंग। टू गेन समथिंग यू हैव टू सैक्रिफाइस समथिंग। सो उस चीज को ध्यान में रखें कि आप अगर फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी लेना चाहते हैं तो स्केड्यूल को उधर से थोड़ा सा करना पड़ेगा, रिलैक्स करना पड़ेगा। अगर आप एफिशिएंसी लेना चाहते हैं तो भी, तो उस हवाले से
सर ये लेकिन आईसीटी टाइप प्रोजेक्ट्स में ये चीजें आई थिंक ये वर्क नहीं करेंगी उस तरीके से।
उसमें ज्यादा करेंगी,
लिमिटेड शॉर्ट टाइम होता है।
आईसीटी में तो ज्यादा करेंगी। आईसीटी में तो छोटे शॉर्ट टाइम कामों के लिए तो ज्यादा सूटेबल है ये, क्योंकि छोटे कामों में हमें चेंजेस लानी पड़ती हैं और चेंजेस की डिमांड मुसलसल होती है। तो एजाइल तो बहुत सूट करेगा वहां पर, और जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एनवायरनमेंट है उसमें कैनबैन बहुत ज्यादा सूट करेगा।
ठीक सर,
राइट जी। इफ यू लाइक यू कैन हैव अ लिटिल बिट ब्रेक ऑफ 5 minutes एंड देन आई कैन स्टार्ट अगेन, just 5 minutes. Right. I see most of you are leaving. I don't know. कोई ऐसा प्रॉब्लम है, मतलब सिर्फ आप लोग अभी कुछ 6 लोग रह गए हैं. So should we continue or should we break it off today? Any opinions? जी शहरयार.
सर टेस्ट ले लें इंटीग्रेशन का।
वो अच्छा, शाहिद साहब बैठे हुए कि चले गए? ये बात आपने बड़ी
सर
मजे की
शायद
है, ये
तो
टेस्ट चुप करके ले लेते हैं, किसी को पता ही नहीं चलेगा. वेरी गुड
ये
आइडिया.
सर।
क्यों जी, सब लोग एग्री करते हैं? हाथ खड़ा करेंगे जो लोग टेस्ट देना चाहते हैं. मारे गए ना जी, शहरयार और फैसल. चलें फिर हो ही जाए मेरा ख्याल है. ये जनाब इंटीग्रेशन का टेस्ट है. 11 क्वेश्चंस हैं और इसके लिए आप 15 मिनट ले लीजिए, बहुत ज्यादा टाइम दे रहा हूँ. एंड फील फ्री, जिसके बाद हम इसको डिस्कस करेंगे और फिर हम आपको छुट्टी कर देंगे. सो प्लीज कैरी ऑन. ये मैं लॉन्च कर रहा हूँ.